Elena Vasquez stood at the observation deck of the transport ship Earth's Hope, watching the massive space station grow larger through the reinforced windows. Nexus Prime looked like a metal city floating in the void of space. Thousands of ships, from hundreds of different worlds, moved around it like busy insects. Each ship was different. Some looked like giant crystals, others like living creatures, and some were just strange shapes that hurt to look at. "First time seeing the Galactic Council's home?" asked Captain Rodriguez, joining her at the window. Elena nodded. "It's bigger than I expected. And stranger. She had spent 3 years preparing for this moment, 3 years learning alien languages, studying galactic law, and practicing her presentation. Elena was Earth's first official ambassador to the Galactic Council. Her mission was simple but crucial: convince the Council to let humanity join the galactic community as full members. The B ship's communication system crackled to life. A voice spoke in perfect English, though it sounded like wind chimes. "Earth Vessel Hope, you are cleared for Docking Bay 77 Alpha. Welcome to Nexus Prime." "That's the Zephyrians," Captain Rodriguez explained. "They were the first aliens to make contact with us. Good people." Elena remembered that day 10 years ago, when the Zephyrian trade ship had appeared near Mars. First contact with alien life had changed everything on Earth. Within months, countries stopped fighting each other and started working together. Humanity had a bigger universe to explore now. The docking process took 2 hours. Elena used the time to review her presentation one more time. She had files about Earth's achievements, the 3 colony worlds they had built, their clean energy, technology, their successful peace treaties, and their rapid space exploration. Most important were the solutions humans had already provided to several alien species. When the Kepler mining crisis happened 3 years ago, human engineers had figured out how to extract rare metals without destroying the planet's ecosystem. When the Tau Ceti plague struck, human doctors had developed a cure in 6 months. Other species had tried for years to solve these problems. "Ambassador, we're ready for you," Captain Rodriguez announced. Elena gathered her materials and walked to the airlock. She wore a simple blue diplomatic uniform with Earth's flag patch on her shoulder. Her dark hair was pulled back in a professional style, and she carried herself with quiet confidence. The airlock opened, and Elena stepped onto Nexus Prime for the first time. The air smelled different, cleaner somehow, with a hint of something like flowers. The gravity felt slightly lighter than Earth normal. A tall, thin creature with blue skin and 4 arms approached her. This was a Zephyrian, and Elena recognized him from her briefings. "Ambassador Vasquez," the alien said in his musical voice. "I am Trade Minister Kethvar. Welcome to Nexus Prime." "Thank you, Minister. I'm honored to be here." Kethvar led her through the station's corridors. The walls were made of some kind of white metal that seemed to glow with its own light. Aliens of dozens of different species walked past them. Elena saw creatures that looked like walking trees, others that floated in bubbles of gas, and some that were just patterns of light moving through the air. "Your presentation is scheduled for tomorrow," Kethvar explained as they walked. "But I wanted to show you something first." They stopped at a large window that looked out into space. In the distance, Elena could see a massive structure that looked like a twisted flower made of crystal and metal. "That is an Architect World ship," Kethvar said. "Primarch Zekthara arrived yesterday. He leads the strongest faction in the Council." Elena studied the alien ship. "What do you know about his position on human membership?" Kethvar was quiet for a moment. "The architects believe in order, Ambassador. They think the galaxy should stay the way it has been for thousands of years. They see humans as unpredictable." "Unpredictable how?" "Your species learns fast. Too fast, some say. In 50 years, you went from your first space flight to building colonies on other worlds. Most species take centuries to do that. It makes some people nervous. Elena nodded. She had expected this kind of thinking. What about the other major factions? The Hive Speakers control the largest fleets in the galaxy. They work like a giant insect colony. Everything planned, everything organized. They don't like surprises either. The Luminary control most of the trade routes. They care mainly about profit. They continued walking until they reached Elena's quarters. The room was simple but comfortable, with a bed, desk, and another window looking out at the stars. "Rest well, Ambassador," HFY said. "Tomorrow will be a long day." Elena spent the evening reviewing her presentation one final time. She practiced her opening statement in front of the mirror, trying to sound confident but not arrogant. She knew that first impressions would be crucial. The next morning, HFY escorted her to the council chambers. Elena had seen pictures, but walking into the real thing took her breath away. The chamber was enormous, a spherical room with seats arranged in rings going up the curved walls. Hundreds of different species filled the seats, creating a rainbow of colors and shapes. At the center of the chamber was a small platform with a speaking podium. Above it, a holographic display showed Earth spinning slowly in space. "Representatives of the Galactic Council," announced a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "We now hear the petition of the human species for full membership in our community." Elena walked to the podium, her footsteps echoing in the vast chamber. She looked up at the assembled aliens, feeling very small but not afraid. "Honored representatives," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's sound system. "I am Elena Vasquez, speaking for the people of Earth and all human colonies. We come before you not as supplicants, but as potential partners in building a better galaxy." She activated her presentation, and the holographic display changed to show images of human achievements. Earth's cities with their clean energy systems, the colony world of New Geneva with its vast agricultural areas feeding millions, the mining stations of Kepler's Hope that extracted resources without harming the environment. In the 10 years since first contact, humanity has proven its worth as a galactic citizen, Elena continued. We have solved problems that stumped other species for generations. We have shared our knowledge freely. We have kept the peace and honored all our agreements. Murmurs of approval came from some sections of the chamber. Elena saw several species nodding or making gestures that her briefings had taught her meant agreement. "We bring unique perspectives to the challenges facing our galaxy," she said. "Human creativity and adaptability can help solve problems in new ways. Our democratic traditions can contribute to galactic governance. Our scientific methods can advance knowledge for all species." The presentation continued for 30 minutes. Elena showed examples of human problem-solving, from the medical breakthrough that saved the Tau Ceti colonies to the engineering solutions that prevented 3 different environmental disasters. When she finished, the chamber was quiet for a moment. Then HFY stood up in the Zephyrian section. "The Zephyrian Trade Consortium supports human membership," he announced. "We have worked with humans for years. They are honest partners and creative problem solvers." Several other species voiced their support. Elena began to feel hopeful. Maybe this would be easier than she had feared. Then a new voice cut through the chamber like a blade of ice. "I object." All eyes turned to the architect section. Primarch Zekthara rose from his crystal throne. He was tall and thin, made of what looked like living crystal. Light moved through his transparent body in shifting patterns. "The architects cannot support this petition," Zekthara announced. His voice echoed strangely, as if it came from inside a cave. "Humans are chaos bringers. They destabilize everything they touch." Elena felt her heart sink, but she kept her expression calm. "Primarch Zekthara, what evidence do you have for this claim?" "Your own history provides the evidence," the crystal being replied. "In 50 years, you have gone from a single world to multiple colonies. You change faster than any species in recorded galactic history. Change brings chaos. Chaos brings war. Change also brings progress, Elena countered. Human adaptability has already benefited many species in this chamber. Elena Vasquez stood at the observation deck of the transport ship Earth's Hope, watching the massive space station grow larger through the reinforced windows. Nexus Prime looked like a metal city floating in the void of space. Thousands of ships from hundreds of different worlds moved around it like busy insects. Each ship was different. Some looked like giant crystals, others like living creatures, and some were just strange shapes that hurt to look at. "First time seeing the Galactic Council's home?" asked Captain Rodriguez, joining her at the window. Elena nodded. "It's bigger than I expected. And stranger. She had spent 3 years preparing for this moment, 3 years learning alien languages, studying galactic law, and practicing her presentation. Elena was Earth's first official ambassador to the Galactic Council. Her mission was simple but crucial: convince the Council to let humanity join the galactic community as full members. The B ship's communication system crackled to life. A voice spoke in perfect English, though it sounded like wind chimes. "Earth Vessel Hope, you are cleared for Docking Bay 77 Alpha. Welcome to Nexus Prime." "That's the Zephyrians," Captain Rodriguez explained. "They were the first aliens to make contact with us. Good people." Elena remembered that day 10 years ago, when the Zephyrian trade ship had appeared near Mars. First contact with alien life had changed everything on Earth. Within months, countries stopped fighting each other and started working together. Humanity had a bigger universe to explore now. The docking process took 2 hours. Elena used the time to review her presentation one more time. She had files about Earth's achievements, the 3 colony worlds they had built, their clean energy, technology, their successful peace treaties, and their rapid space exploration. Most important were the solutions humans had already provided to several alien species. When the Kepler mining crisis happened 3 years ago, human engineers had figured out how to extract rare metals without destroying the planet's ecosystem. When the Tau Ceti plague struck, human doctors had developed a cure in 6 months. Other species had tried for years to solve these problems. "Ambassador, we're ready for you," Captain Rodriguez announced. Elena gathered her materials and walked to the airlock. She wore a simple blue diplomatic uniform with Earth's flag patch on her shoulder. Her dark hair was pulled back in a professional style, and she carried herself with quiet confidence. The airlock opened, and Elena stepped onto Nexus Prime for the first time. The air smelled different, cleaner somehow, with a hint of something like flowers. The gravity felt slightly lighter than Earth normal. A tall, thin creature with blue skin and 4 arms approached her. This was a Zephyrian, and Elena recognized him from her briefings. "Ambassador Vasquez," the alien said in his musical voice. "I am Trade Minister Kethvar. Welcome to Nexus Prime." "Thank you, Minister. I'm honored to be here." Kethvar led her through the station's corridors. The walls were made of some kind of white metal that seemed to glow with its own light. Aliens of dozens of different species walked past them. Elena saw creatures that looked like walking trees, others that floated in bubbles of gas, and some that were just patterns of light moving through the air. "Your presentation is scheduled for tomorrow," Kethvar explained as they walked. "But I wanted to show you something first." They stopped at a large window that looked out into space. In the distance, Elena could see a massive structure that looked like a twisted flower made of crystal and metal. "That is an Architect World ship," Kethvar said. "Primarch Zekthara arrived yesterday. He leads the strongest faction in the Council." Elena studied the alien ship. "What do you know about his position on human membership?" Kethvar was quiet for a moment. "The architects believe in order, Ambassador. They think the galaxy should stay the way it has been for thousands of years. They see humans as unpredictable. Unpredictable how? Your species learns fast. Too fast, some say. In 50 years, you went from your first space flight to building colonies on other worlds. Most species take centuries to do that. It makes some people nervous. Elena nodded. She had expected this kind of thinking. What about the other major factions? The Hive Speakers control the largest fleets in the galaxy. They work like a giant insect colony. Everything planned, everything organized. They don't like surprises either. The Luminary control most of the trade routes. They care mainly about profit. They continued walking until they reached Elena's quarters. The room was simple but comfortable, with a bed, desk, and another window looking out at the stars. "Rest well, Ambassador," HFY said. "Tomorrow will be a long day." Elena spent the evening reviewing her presentation one final time. She practiced her opening statement in front of the mirror, trying to sound confident but not arrogant. She knew that first impressions would be crucial. The next morning, HFY escorted her to the council chambers. Elena had seen pictures, but walking into the real thing took her breath away. The chamber was enormous, a spherical room with seats arranged in rings going up the curved walls. Hundreds of different species filled the seats, creating a rainbow of colors and shapes. At the center of the chamber was a small platform with a speaking podium. Above it, a holographic display showed Earth spinning slowly in space. "Representatives of the Galactic Council," announced a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "We now hear the petition of the human species for full membership in our community." Elena walked to the podium, her footsteps echoing in the vast chamber. She looked up at the assembled aliens, feeling very small but not afraid. "Honored representatives," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's sound system. "I am Elena Vasquez, speaking for the people of Earth and all human colonies. We come before you not as supplicants, but as potential partners in building a better galaxy." She activated her presentation, and the holographic display changed to show images of human achievements. Earth's cities with their clean energy systems, the colony world of New Geneva with its vast agricultural areas feeding millions, the mining stations of Kepler's Hope that extracted resources without harming the environment. In the 10 years since first contact, humanity has proven its worth as a galactic citizen, Elena continued. "We have solved problems that stumped other species for generations. We have shared our knowledge freely. We have kept the peace and honored all our agreements." Murmurs of approval came from some sections of the chamber. Elena saw several species nodding or making gestures that her briefings had taught her meant agreement. "We bring unique perspectives to the challenges facing our galaxy," she said. "Human creativity and adaptability can help solve problems in new ways. Our democratic traditions can contribute to galactic governance. Our scientific methods can advance knowledge for all species." The presentation continued for 30 minutes. Elena showed examples of human problem-solving, from the medical breakthrough that saved the Tau Ceti colonies to the engineering solutions that prevented 3 different environmental disasters. When she finished, the chamber was quiet for a moment. Then HFY stood up in the Zephyrian section. "The Zephyrian Trade Consortium supports human membership," he announced. "We have worked with humans for years. They are honest partners and creative problem solvers." Several other species voiced their support. Elena began to feel hopeful. Maybe this would be easier than she had feared. Then a new voice cut through the chamber like a blade of ice. "I object." All eyes turned to the architect section. Primarch Zekthara rose from his crystal throne. He was tall and thin, made of what looked like living crystal. Light moved through his transparent body in shifting patterns. "The architects cannot support this petition," Zekthara announced. His voice echoed strangely, as if it came from inside a cave. "Humans are chaos bringers. They destabilize everything they touch." Elena felt her heart sink, but she kept her expression calm. Primarch Zekathara, what evidence do you have for this claim? Your own history provides the evidence, the crystal being replied. In 50 years, you have gone from a single world to multiple colonies. You change faster than any species in recorded galactic history. Change brings chaos. Chaos brings war. Change also brings progress, Elena countered. Human adaptability has already benefited many species in this chamber. Elena spent the 6-hour recess researching everything she could find about Galactic Statute 777. What she discovered made her stomach turn cold. The law had been written during something called the Flame Wars, when a species called the Pirathi had used their mastery of fire to burn entire worlds before the early Galactic Council could stop them. The Pirathi had been completely destroyed 5,000 years ago. Every member of their species had been hunted down and killed. The law banning firebearer species had been written in their blood. But Elena also found something else. The law had never been used since the Pirathi extinction. Most council species had forgotten it existed. Only the architects, with their perfect crystal memories, still remembered every ancient statute. Elena prepared her defense carefully. She gathered evidence of human environmental restoration projects, peace treaties, and humanitarian aid. She collected testimonials from alien species that humans had helped. She documented every example of human restraint and responsibility in space exploration. When the council reconvened, Elena was ready. Honored representatives, she began, I have reviewed Galactic Statute 777. I understand the historical context that created this law. The Pirathi were indeed a dangerous species that used fire as a weapon of conquest. She activated her presentation, showing images of human firefighters saving alien colonies from natural disasters. But humanity is not the Pirathi, Elena continued. Yes, we discovered combustion early in our development, but we also learned to control it. We use fire to save lives, not destroy them. We use it to power clean energy systems, not burn worlds. The images changed to show human rescue workers pulling survivors from collapsed buildings on 3 different alien worlds. The law says firebearer species are too dangerous for galactic citizenship. But I ask you, what is more dangerous? A species that has learned to control fire and use it responsibly, or a species that refuses to acknowledge how much the galaxy has changed in 5,000 years? Several species in the chamber made sounds of approval. Elena saw some of the Zephyrians nodding, and even a few Luminari seemed interested in her argument, but Primarch Zekathara was not impressed. Fine words, the crystal being said coldly, but words cannot change fundamental nature. The law exists for good reason. Firebearer species cannot be trusted with galactic citizenship. Then let me prove you wrong, Elena said boldly. Give humanity a probationary membership. Let us show you through our actions that we deserve full citizenship. The law permits no exceptions, Zekathara replied. Firebearer species seeking council membership must face ritual purification. A chill fell over the chamber. Many representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Even Elena, who had studied galactic law extensively, had never heard of this ritual. What exactly does that mean? She asked. Zekathara's crystalline form pulsed with what Elena was beginning to recognize as satisfaction. According to ancient tradition, a firebearer representative must be cleansed by the element they mastered improperly. They must burn. Shocked gasps echoed through the chamber. Several species immediately began protesting. This is barbaric, called out Ambassador Veltar of the Peaceful Nebula Coalition. We are not savages! The ritual has not been performed in 5,000 years, added Councillor Cree of the Silicon Valley Collective. Many of us question whether it is even legal under current galactic law. But Queen Vessel Prime of the Hive Speakers spoke up in support of Zekathara. Ancient laws exist for ancient reasons. if we ignore them when convenient, what prevents chaos from returning to the galaxy? Elena felt the debate swirling around her like a storm. Species were choosing sides, and she realized with growing horror that this was no longer about human membership in the Council. This had become a test of whether ancient laws or modern justice would rule the galaxy. "I call for a formal vote," Zekthara announced. "All those in favor of enforcing Galactic Statute 777, including its purification ritual." The voting began immediately. Elena watched in disbelief as the results appeared on the chamber's displays. The architects voted as a block for enforcement. The hive speakers followed their queen's lead, many smaller species afraid to oppose. The powerful factions voted the same way. The Zephyrians voted against enforcement, as did several other species that had worked closely with humans. But they were outnumbered. When the count finished, Elena stared at the numbers in shock. 431 species voted for enforcement. 398 voted against. 18 abstained. She had lost by 33 votes. "The Council has spoken," Zekthara announced with obvious pleasure. "Galactic Statute 777 will be enforced. The human representative will undergo ritual purification." Elena's legs felt weak, but she forced herself to stand straight. "I request the right to appeal this decision to the High Arbitrators." "Appeal." "Denied," Zekthara replied immediately. "Ancient law supersedes modern procedures in matters of galactic security." Elena realized that this had been planned from the beginning. Zekthara had known about the ancient law and had prepared for this exact scenario. The trial had been a sham. "I also request the right to contact my government before any ritual is performed." "Granted," Zekthara said, though he didn't sound happy about it. "You have 1 hour." Elena was escorted to a communication chamber under heavy guard. Her hands shook as she activated the quantum transmitter that would send her message to Earth. The transmission would take 6 hours to reach home, but she had to try. She recorded her message carefully, speaking directly to President Chen and the United Earth Assembly. "This is Ambassador Elena Vasquez reporting from Nexus Prime. The situation has changed dramatically. The Council has invoked an ancient law that classifies humanity as a fire-bearer species banned from membership. They intend to execute me as part of a purification ritual." Elena paused, gathering her thoughts. She needed to be clear about what this meant. "This is not about justice or law. This is about fear. The powerful species in the Council are afraid of human potential. They're afraid that we'll change things, challenge their authority, or grow too strong too fast." She looked directly into the camera, trying to project strength she didn't feel. "I want Earth to know that I'm proud to represent humanity in this moment. Don't let my death be used as an excuse for war. But also don't let it be forgotten. The galaxy needs to change, and maybe my sacrifice will help that happen." Elena paused again, thinking of her family back on Earth. Her sister Maria, her parents, her nephew who wanted to be an astronaut. "Tell my family I love them. Tell them I died trying to build a better future. And tell humanity to keep reaching for the stars, no matter what happens here." She ended the transmission and sat back in her chair. In less than an hour, she would die in front of representatives from nearly 1,000 different worlds. The first human to address the Galactic Council would also be the first to be executed by it. Elena was escorted back to the council chamber, which had been transformed during her absence. The speaking platform had been removed and replaced with something that made Elena's blood run cold. In the center of the chamber stood a metal platform with a tall stake rising from the middle. Around the base, maintenance robots were stacking bundles of some kind of fuel. This was the pyre of purification, an ancient device that hadn't been used in 5,000 years. The chamber was packed. Word had spread throughout Nexus Prime, and representatives from species not even on the Yi. Council had come to witness the event. Some looked horrified, others curious, and a few seemed to be enjoying the spectacle. "Ambassador Elena Vasquez of Earth," Zekthara announced formally. You have been found guilty of representing a firebearer species seeking council membership. According to Galactic Statute 777, you must undergo ritual purification to cleanse the galaxy of this contamination. Elena was escorted to the platform by two large security robots. As she climbed the steps, she heard voices from the crowd. "This is wrong!" someone called out. She thought it might be Kethvar. "Barbaric!" shouted another voice. But other voices called for the ritual to proceed. "The law must be upheld. Ancient wisdom protects us." Elena was secured to the stake with energy restraints that glowed blue around her wrists and ankles. The restraints didn't hurt, but she couldn't move. Looking out at the assembled representatives, Elena felt a strange sense of calm settling over her. She had done everything she could. She had spoken truth to power, defended her species with honor, and faced an unjust death with dignity. "Do you have any final words?" Zekthara asked, his crystal form positioned near a control panel that would ignite the pyre. Elena looked up at the curved walls of the chamber, seeing hundreds of different species watching her. Some looked ashamed, others afraid, and many simply confused about what they were witnessing. "Yes," Elena said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's sound system. "I have final words for this council." She took a deep breath, knowing these would be the last words any human would speak to the galactic community for a very long time. "You call humans fire-bearers as if it's a curse. But fire is not just destruction. Fire is light in darkness. Fire is warmth in cold. Fire is the spark that drives all progress and all hope." Elena's voice grew stronger as she continued. "You burn one human today because you're afraid of what humanity might become. But you can't burn an idea, you can't kill hope, and you can't stop the future from coming." She looked directly at Zekthara, then let her gaze sweep across the chamber. "My death will not protect your old order. It will not stop human progress. It will only prove that this council values ancient fears more than present justice. You burn one of us today, but you'll answer to all of us eventually." Elena's final words echoed through the chamber. "Remember this moment. Remember what you chose. And remember that fire always returns." Zekthara activated the controls without ceremony. The fuel around the base of the pyre ignited instantly, sending flames shooting upward. Elena felt the heat rising around her and closed her eyes. Her last thought was a hope that humanity would remember her not as a victim, but as a warning of what happens when justice fails and fear rules. The flames consumed Elena Vasquez, first human ambassador to the Galactic Council, as nearly 1,000 alien species watched in silence. Some would remember this day with shame, others with satisfaction, and a few with growing dread. They had lit a fire they could not control. The message from Elena reached Earth exactly 6 hours after her execution. President Chen was in an emergency session with the United Earth Assembly when the transmission arrived. The quantum communication array had been waiting for Elena's regular report, but what they received instead was her final message. President Chen watched Elena's recording 3 times before calling for the assembly to view it together. The great hall fell completely silent as Elena's voice filled the chamber, explaining the ancient law and the council's decision to execute her. When the message ended, the silence stretched for nearly a minute. Then, Assembly Speaker Williams, from the African Federation, stood up slowly. "They murdered our ambassador," she said quietly. "They burned her alive for the crime of being human." The dam burst. Representatives from every nation and colony began shouting at once. Some called for immediate military action. Others demanded economic sanctions. A few suggested withdrawing from all galactic contact completely. President Chen raised her hand for silence. When the assembly settled down, she spoke in a voice that was calm, but carried the weight of absolute determination. 3 hours ago, I received additional intelligence from our monitoring stations throughout the system. Several alien species transmitted recordings of Elena's execution. They wanted us to see exactly what the Council did to our representative. The chamber's main screen activated, showing fuzzy but clear footage of Elena tied to the stake in the Council chamber. The recording captured her final words and the moment the flames consumed her. Some assembly members turned away, but most watched with growing fury. The Zephyrians sent us this along with a message, President Chen continued. They're withdrawing from the Council in protest, so are 12 other species. They're calling Elena's execution a war crime and demanding the Council be disbanded. She paused, letting that information sink in. But that's not enough. Not nearly enough. President Chen activated another display showing Earth's orbital installations, lunar shipyards, and colony worlds. For 10 years, we've built our space infrastructure for exploration and trade. We've been good galactic citizens. We've helped solve problems, prevented wars, and shared our knowledge freely. And in return, they burned our ambassador alive because an ancient law says humans are too dangerous to join their club. The president's voice grew harder. They want to see dangerous humans? They're about to get their wish. The Assembly voted unanimously to authorize military action against the Galactic Council. But this wasn't a simple declaration of war. This was something new in human history, the entire species working together for a single purpose. Within hours, every human settlement in space began coordinating like never before. The lunar shipyards, originally built to construct exploration vessels, switched to military production. The industrial platforms around Earth started working around the clock. Mining operations on asteroids redirected their output to weapons, manufacturing. But the most significant change happened in the hearts and minds of humanity itself. The footage of Elena's execution spread across every human settlement in space. On New Geneva, farmers left their fields to volunteer for military service. On Kepler's Hope, miners abandoned their excavations to join the fleet. On Red Mesa, scientists stopped their research to design new weapons. Admiral Sarah Thompson was called back from retirement to lead the response fleet. She had commanded Earth's first deep space exploration missions and knew space warfare better than anyone alive. When President Chen offered her the position, Thompson's response was immediate. "I'll take it on one condition," she said. "We name the operation after Elena." "What do you want to call it?" "Elena's Fury." Within 48 hours, Elena's Fury had become the largest military mobilization in human history. Ships came from everywhere. Military vessels, converted civilian transports, even private spacecraft whose owners demanded to join the mission. The final fleet consisted of 200 ships carrying 50,000 personnel. But this wasn't just about numbers. It was about how humans fought. The Galactic Council species had been at peace for centuries. Their military doctrines focused on intimidation and ceremonial battles with minimal casualties. They fought wars like they held debates, formally, predictably, and with lots of rules. Humans had never stopped fighting wars. Even after achieving world peace, human military academies still studied every conflict in their history. They understood things the Council had forgotten: surprise, deception, psychological warfare, and the willingness to take casualties to achieve victory. General Marcus Torres, Earth's leading expert on space combat tactics, briefed the fleet commanders before departure. "The Council expects us to follow their rules," he explained to the assembled officers. "They think we'll challenge them to formal combat, line up our ships, and fight like gentlemen. They're wrong." Torres activated a holographic display showing Nexus Prime and its surrounding space. "We're going to hit them like humans have always fought, fast, hard, and from directions they don't expect. We'll use every advantage we have. Our ships are faster because we designed them for long-range exploration. Our weapons are more efficient because we had to make them work in hostile environments. Most importantly, our people are more motivated because they're fighting for justice, not politics." The fleet departed Earth's system exactly 1 week after Elena's execution. As the ships activated their hyperspace drives, people throughout human space watched and waited. This wasn't just a military mission. It was humanity's answer to galactic injustice. The journey to Nexus Prime took 2 weeks. During that time, Admiral Thompson received regular intelligence updates from sympathetic alien species. The Council was in chaos. Zekthara's faction was trying to maintain order, but more species were withdrawing from the Council every day. Some alien governments were privately supporting humanity's mission. The Zephyrians offered to share intelligence about Council military capabilities. The Peaceful Nebula Coalition promised to provide medical aid for human casualties. Even some Luminary trading companies quietly supplied fuel and spare parts for the human fleet. But Elena's Fury also faced opposition. The Architect fleet was mobilizing their geometric fortress ships. The Hive-Speaker swarms were moving toward Nexus Prime. Several other species were sending military forces to defend the Council. What none of them expected was how humans would actually fight. Elena's Fury arrived at the edge of the Nexus Prime system during the night shift. Instead of announcing their presence and demanding formal combat, they simply appeared on long-range sensors like ghosts. Admiral Thompson's first action shocked the entire galaxy. She broadcast a message on all frequencies that reached every inhabited world within 50 light years. This is Admiral Sarah Thompson of the United Earth Fleet, commanding the task force Elena's Fury. We have come to Nexus Prime seeking justice for the murder of Ambassador Elena Vasquez. The transmission included footage of Elena's execution, her final words, and documentation of the corrupt legal process that led to her death. We are not conquerors, Thompson continued. We are not invaders. We are humans seeking justice for a crime committed against our people. Any species that wishes to avoid conflict should evacuate Nexus Prime within 72 hours. After that time, we will consider any military vessel in this system to be defending the Council that burned our ambassador alive. The message ended with Elena's final words, "You burn one of us, but you'll answer to all of us." The broadcast caused panic throughout the galaxy. Some species immediately began evacuating Nexus Prime. Others demanded that the Council surrender the individuals responsible for Elena's death. A few called for the Council to negotiate with the humans, but Zekthara refused all compromise. He announced that the Architect fleet would defend Nexus Prime and that Elena's execution had been completely legal under galactic law. Humans are chaos bringers, he declared in his own broadcast. This unprovoked attack proves that Firebearer species cannot be trusted. We will destroy this fleet and eliminate the human threat permanently. What Zekthara didn't understand was that his broadcasts were being recorded and transmitted throughout human space. Every human settlement heard his words about eliminating the human threat. The fear and anger that had driven Elena's Fury to Nexus Prime now spread to every human in the galaxy. Admiral Thompson received thousands of messages from human civilians, volunteering to fight. Mining ships requested permission to ram enemy vessels. Transport captains asked to be converted into weapons platforms. Even the research station orbiting Pluto sent a message offering to join the battle. For the first time in their history, humans were truly united, not by a common goal or shared interests, but by shared outrage and the determination to prove that justice mattered more than ancient laws. As the 72-hour deadline approached, Thompson made one final broadcast to the Council forces gathering around Nexus Prime. You have been given every opportunity to surrender the war criminals responsible for Ambassador Vasquez's murder. You have chosen instead to defend them. You call humans dangerous chaos bringers who cannot be trusted with galactic citizenship. She paused, and when she continued, her voice carried the weight of humanity's judgment. You're about to learn that you were right about one thing. When you murder our people for the crime of being human, we are very dangerous indeed. Elena's Fury moved toward Nexus Prime at full speed, ready to show the galaxy what human justice looked like when diplomacy failed. Behind them, every human in space watched and waited to see if 50,000 people could change the course of galactic history. The Council forces outnumbered Elena's Fury 3-1. They had bigger ships, more advanced technology, and the advantage of fighting in their home system, but they had never faced an enemy that fought like humans, with nothing to lose and everything to prove. The battle for Nexus Prime was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Battle of Nexus Prime began at exactly 800 Standard Galactic Time, when Admiral Thompson's 72-hour ultimatum expired. But the first shot wasn't fired by Elena's Fury. It came from an Architect Fortress ship that tried to destroy a human reconnaissance drone. The Council forces had arranged themselves in the traditional formation, a grand display meant to intimidate enemies into surrender. Massive Architect ships formed geometric patterns that looked like crystal flowers blooming in space. Hive Speaker swarm fleets moved in perfect coordination, their biomechanical ships pulsing with organic light. Support vessels from dozens of other species created a wall of metal and energy around Nexus Prime. Admiral Thompson studied the enemy formation from the bridge of her flagship, Elena's Justice. The Council fleet was impressive, nearly 600 ships arranged in neat, predictable patterns. "They're showing off," observed Captain Martinez, Thompson's tactical officer. "Look at those formations. They're more concerned with looking powerful than fighting effectively." Thompson nodded. "They haven't fought a real war in centuries. They've forgotten that battles are won by tactics, not ceremonies." She activated the fleet communication system, speaking to all 200 ships of Elena's Fury. "All vessels. This is Admiral Thompson. The enemy is arranged exactly as we expected, formal, predictable, and vulnerable. Remember your training. Fight like humans, not like them. Thompson out." The human fleet had spent the 72-hour waiting period preparing for this moment. While the Council forces arranged themselves in pretty patterns, Elena's Fury had been studying their enemies, identifying weaknesses, and planning attacks that the Council couldn't predict. Human military doctrine was based on principles the Council had never encountered: speed over strength, surprise over ceremony, effectiveness over elegance. The first human attack came from an unexpected direction. While the Council fleet focused on the main human formation, 30 small ships had been moving through the asteroid field that surrounded Nexus Prime. These weren't warships. They were converted mining vessels and exploration craft, crewed by volunteers who knew they probably wouldn't survive. Led by Captain Rosa Delgado, a former asteroid miner, these ships emerged from the asteroid field directly behind the Council formation. They carried improvised weapons, mining lasers modified for combat, cargo containers filled with explosives, and electromagnetic pulse devices designed to disable enemy ships. "This is for Elena," Captain Delgado broadcast as her ship rammed directly into an Architect fortress, its explosive cargo detonating on impact. The Architect ship, built to intimidate rather than to withstand ramming attacks, cracked like crystal, struck by a hammer. Its geometric perfection became its weakness as the structural damage spread through its crystalline framework. The surprise attack threw the Council formation into chaos. They had never fought an enemy willing to sacrifice ships in suicide attacks. Their doctrine assumed that all species valued individual ship preservation over tactical advantage. While the Council forces tried to reorganize the main human fleet, struck with precision they had never seen before. Human ships didn't line up for formal duels. Instead, they moved in small groups, coordinating their attacks through quantum communication links that let them react faster than any enemy could predict. Commander Zhang led a squadron of fast attack ships in a strike against the Hive Speaker command vessels. The insectoid aliens were used to perfect coordination, but human cyber warfare specialists had been studying their communication frequencies during the waiting period. "Jamming commenced," reported Lieutenant Kim from the Digital Storm. Her team had developed viruses specifically designed to disrupt Hive Speaker coordination protocols. The result was immediate. Hive speaker swarms that had moved in perfect harmony suddenly began flying into each other. Their biomechanical ships, dependent on constant communication with the collective mind, started behaving erratically. Queen Vessel Prime's voice filled the communication channels, buzzing with fury and confusion. "What is this? Our unity is being disrupted. How are they breaking our connection?" But the humans weren't done. While cyber warfare teams disrupted Hive speaker coordination, other human ships launched attacks the Council had never imagined. Captain Williams commanded a group of converted cargo ships that had been loaded with thousands of small drones. These weren't military drones. They were mining robots, maintenance bots, and even cleaning units, all reprogrammed for combat. "Drone swarm away," Williams announced as her ships released clouds of small machines that immediately swarmed toward enemy vessels. The Council ships' weapons were designed to fight other large vessels. They couldn't effectively target thousands of small, fast-moving drones. The little machines attached themselves to Council ships and began doing what they were originally designed for: cutting, welding, and disassembling. Architect ships found their perfect crystal surfaces being methodically cut apart by mining drones. Hive speaker vessels discovered maintenance bots crawling through their organic systems, severing neural connections. Even the massive Luminary trade ships, pressed into military service, found their hulls being systematically dismantled by robots that had originally been built to maintain space stations. Primarch Zekthara, commanding the Architect fleet from his flagship Crystal Perfection, watched in disbelief as his forces fell into chaos. "This is not warfare," he broadcast to his commanders. "This is madness. They fight without honor, without rules, without any sense of civilized conduct." Admiral Thompson, monitoring Council communications, smiled grimly. "That's exactly right," she said to her bridge crew. "We're not fighting by their rules. We're fighting to win." The battle raged for 6 hours, but the outcome became clear after the first 2. The Council forces, despite their numerical advantage, couldn't adapt to human tactics. Every time they tried to reorganize, the humans hit them from a new direction, with a new strategy. Human pilots, trained on combat simulations that covered thousands of years of warfare, proved devastatingly effective. They used Earth's military history as a playbook, adapting ancient tactics to space combat. Commander Jackson led a squadron in a maneuver based on naval battles from Earth's World War II. His ships pretended to retreat, drawing Architect vessels into pursuit, then turned and attacked from multiple directions simultaneously. "It's called the Thatch Weave," Jackson explained to his pilots as they overwhelmed their pursuers. "Developed by Earth naval aviators in 1942. Still works." Captain Thompson used a strategy from Alexander the Great, concentrating overwhelming force against weak points in the enemy formation. Lieutenant Colonel Davis employed tactics from the American Civil War, using fast ships to raid enemy supply lines and communication relays. The Council forces had no answer for this kind of warfare. They had forgotten the hard lessons that only come from actual combat experience, but the humans were paying a price for their victory. Elena's fury had started with 200 ships. By the 6th hour of battle, only 127 were still operational. Nearly 15,000 humans had died in the attack, including Captain Delgado and her entire suicide squadron. Yet morale remained high. Every human in the fleet knew they were fighting for something bigger than themselves. They were fighting to prove that justice mattered more than ancient laws, that right mattered more than might. The turning point came when human forces reached Nexus Prime itself. The massive space station was defended by automated systems and a small garrison, but most of its population had evacuated during the 72-hour ultimatum. Admiral Thompson made a decision that would echo through galactic history. Instead of bombarding the station, she demanded its surrender. "Nexus Prime Control, this is Admiral Thompson. You are surrounded. Your defending fleets are destroyed, or retreating. Surrender now, and we guarantee the safety of all civilians and non-combatant personnel." The response came from Primarch Zekthara himself, his crystal form appearing on the main communication screen. "Humans," he said, his voice carrying both fury and what might have been respect, "you have proven yourselves to be everything we feared. Chaotic, unpredictable, and devastatingly effective in combat." Thompson nodded. "And you've proven yourselves to be exactly what we expected. Arrogant, inflexible, and willing to murder innocents to maintain your power." "What do you want?" Zekthara asked. "Justice," Thompson replied immediately. "Surrender yourself and Queen Vessel Prime for trial. Acknowledge that Elena Vasquez was murdered in violation of galactic law. Dissolve the current council and establish a new governing body based on justice rather than ancient prejudices. And if we refuse?" Thompson gestured toward the tactical display showing the wreckage of the council fleet. "Then we'll take Nexus Prime by force, and galactic history will remember this as the day the old order died." For a long moment, Zekthara was silent. Around him, other council members could be seen arguing frantically. Finally, the architect leader spoke again. "The council agrees to your terms. We surrender." Elena's fury had won the battle of Nexus Prime, but Admiral Thompson knew the real victory was yet to come. Defeating the council fleet was one thing. Building a better galactic civilization to replace it would be much harder. As human ships moved to secure Nexus Prime, Thompson thought about Elena Vasquez. The young diplomat had come here hoping to build bridges between species. Instead, her murder had led to the destruction of the old galactic order. But maybe that was what had been needed all along. Maybe some bridges could only be built after the old foundations were torn down. "Admiral," reported Captain Martinez, "we're receiving surrender signals from 67 council vessels. The others have fled the system." "Let them go," Thompson replied. "We came here for justice, not conquest." She opened a communication channel to the entire galaxy, knowing that her words would be heard on thousands of worlds. "This is Admiral Sarah Thompson of Elena's Fury. The Battle of Nexus Prime is over. The Galactic Council that murdered Ambassador Elena Vasquez has surrendered, but this is not the end, it's the beginning." Thompson paused, thinking of Elena's final words about fire always returning. "Ambassador Vasquez told the Council that you can't kill hope. Today, humanity has proven her right. The old order that valued ancient fears over present justice is finished. Now we build something better." The fire that had consumed Elena Vasquez had spread across the galaxy, but instead of bringing destruction, it had brought the light of change. The old council was defeated, but the work of building a new galactic civilization was just beginning. 6 months after the Battle of Nexus Prime, the great station had been transformed into something the galaxy had never seen before. The old council chambers where Elena Vasquez had been murdered were being converted into the Elena Vasquez Memorial Center for Galactic Justice. Where once ancient laws had been used to justify murder, now representatives from hundreds of species worked together to write new laws based on fairness and equality. Admiral Thompson stood in what had once been the Pyre Chamber, watching construction crews install a massive holographic display. Soon, this room would house the central archives of the new Galactic Federation, a democratic body where membership was earned through merit, not granted based on how long a species had been traveling through space. "The irony is perfect," said Kethvar, the Zephyrian, who had become one of Thompson's closest allies in building the new order. "They burned Elena here to prevent change. Now this room will be the center of the greatest change in galactic history." Thompson nodded, but her expression remained serious. "Change is easy to start. Making it last is the hard part." The past 6 months had been the most challenging of Thompson's life, and that included fighting the Battle of Nexus Prime. Winning a war was simple compared to building a lasting peace. After the Council's surrender, Thompson had faced an immediate crisis. Hundreds of alien species were suddenly without any central government. Trade routes were disrupted. Territorial disputes erupted between species that had been kept peaceful only by Council authority. pirates and raiders began attacking merchant ships, knowing there was no galactic police force to stop them. Some of Thompson's own officers had suggested that humanity should simply take control of the galaxy by force. Elena's fury had proven that human military tactics were superior to anything the established species could field. A few quick campaigns could establish Earth as the dominant galactic power. Thompson had rejected that idea immediately. Elena didn't. Die so we could become galactic dictators, she had told her staff during a heated planning meeting. She died because the old council valued power over justice. If we just replace them with human power, we're no better than they were. Instead, Thompson had done something unprecedented in galactic history. She had begun building a truly democratic galactic government. The process had started with the trial of Primarch Zekthara and Queen Vessel Prime. Thompson could have simply executed them in revenge for Elena's murder, but instead, she had insisted on a proper legal proceeding with evidence, witnesses, and representation for the accused. The trial had been broadcast throughout the galaxy, letting billions of beings see justice in action for the first time. Zekthara and Queen Vessel Prime were found guilty of murder under galactic law, but their sentences reflected the New Order's commitment to rehabilitation over revenge. Instead of execution, they were sentenced to spend their lives working to repair the damage they had caused. Zekthara now worked as a construction supervisor, helping to rebuild the infrastructure his war had destroyed. Queen Vessel Prime led teams of former Hive-speaker warriors in humanitarian missions, providing aid to species affected by the conflict. Justice without mercy is just revenge, Thompson had explained during her sentencing statement. Elena believed in building bridges, not burning them. These sentences honor her memory by choosing rehabilitation over retaliation. The trial had established an important precedent, but the real work had been building the new Galactic Federation from scratch. Thompson had sent messages to every known species in the galaxy, inviting them to participate in designing a new form of galactic government. The response had been overwhelming. Species that had been excluded from the old council for thousands of years eagerly joined the Constitutional Convention. Young civilizations that had never been allowed to participate in galactic affairs suddenly found themselves with equal voices in designing the future. But the process had also revealed deep divisions that the old council had kept hidden. Species had territorial disputes going back millennia. Religious differences had created lasting hatred between entire civilizations. Economic inequalities had left some worlds fantastically wealthy, while others struggled with basic survival. Statute. Constitutional Convention had lasted 4 months and nearly collapsed dozens of times. Thompson had found herself mediating disputes between species she had never heard of, over issues she barely understood. The breakthrough had come when a young representative from a species called the Builders had suggested using Elena's final words as the foundation for the new government. She said to judge species by their actions, not their origins, the Builder had argued. What if that became our core principle? What if membership in the Federation was based on what you do, not who you are or how long you've been in space? The idea had transformed the entire debate. Instead of arguing about which species deserved power, the representatives began designing a system where power was earned through contribution to galactic welfare. The final constitution created a unique form of government. The Galactic Federation was led by a council of merit, where seats were earned through demonstrated service to galactic civilization. Species could gain representation by solving problems, preventing conflicts, providing humanitarian aid, or advancing scientific knowledge. Humanity's role in the new order was both powerful and limited. Elena's fury had earned Earth significant influence through their victory at Nexus Prime, but Thompson had insisted that humans hold only a small percentage of Federation leadership positions. "We're not conquerors," she had explained to President Chen during a quantum communication session. "We're partners in building something better." The new system had its critics. Some species complained that it was too complex, too democratic, too willing to change established traditions. A few had refused to join the Federation entirely, preferring to remain independent. But the results spoke for themselves. In just 6 months, the Federation had solved 3 major territorial disputes, organized relief efforts for 7 natural disasters, and established new trade routes that increased prosperity throughout the galaxy. More importantly, the Federation had proven that different species could work together as equals rather than rulers and subjects. Thompson's thoughts were interrupted by Captain Martinez, who approached with a datapad containing the latest reports. Admiral, the Kepler Mining Consortium has requested Federation membership. They're offering to share their new asteroid processing technology with any species that needs it. Thompson smiled. The Kepler Mining Consortium was a human organization, but their application would be judged by the same standards as any other species. Membership wasn't automatic, even for humans. "What's their contribution to galactic welfare?" she asked. "They've prevented 3 mining accidents in alien systems, provided emergency supplies to the drought-affected worlds, and their processing technology could solve resource shortages for dozens of species. Sounds like they've earned consideration. Forward their application to the Merit Review Board." It was a small example of how the new system worked. Instead of membership being based on military power or political influence, the Federation evaluated each application based on actual contributions to galactic civilization. As Thompson reviewed the reports, she was interrupted by an announcement over the station's communication system. "All personnel, please proceed to Memorial Plaza for the dedication ceremony." Thompson had been dreading this moment and anticipating it in equal measure. Today marked the official opening of the Elena Vasquez Memorial Station and the lighting of the eternal flame that would burn in Elena's honor. She made her way to the plaza, a large open area that had been constructed at the heart of the station. Representatives from over 300 species had gathered for the ceremony, including many who had witnessed Elena's execution in this same location 6 months earlier. At the center of the plaza stood a simple but beautiful memorial. A crystal flame, designed by former architect engineers working as part of their rehabilitation, rose from a base inscribed with Elena's final words in hundreds of different languages. "You burn one of us, but you'll answer to all of us." President Chen appeared on the communication screens positioned around the plaza, broadcasting live from Earth. 6 months ago, Ambassador Elena Vasquez came to Nexus Prime hoping to build bridges between humanity and the galactic community, Chen began. Instead, she was murdered by those who feared change and valued ancient prejudices over present justice. The president paused, looking directly into the camera. But Elena's death was not in vain. From the tragedy of her murder has come the greatest transformation in galactic history. The Galactic Federation she dreamed of has become reality, built on the principles she died defending. Thompson stepped forward to address the assembled representatives. Elena Vasquez believed that species should be judged by their actions, not their origins. She believed that justice mattered more than tradition, that cooperation was stronger than domination, and that the future could be better than the past. Thompson gestured toward the memorial flame. This flame burns not as a symbol of destruction, but as a symbol of the light that Elena brought to the galaxy. It represents hope, progress, and the belief that different species can work together as equals. She activated the memorial's central system, and the crystal flame ignited with a brilliant light that could be seen throughout the station. Let this flame remind us that justice delayed is justice denied, that fear of change is not wisdom, and that the price of freedom is eternal vigilance against those who would sacrifice others for their own power. The ceremony concluded with a moment of silence for Elena and all those who had died in the Battle of Nexus Prime. Then, representatives from hundreds of species filed past the memorial, many leaving flowers, crystals, or other tokens of respect. Kethvar approached Thompson as the crowd began to disperse. She would be proud, the Zephyrian said quietly. Elena always believed in the potential for different species to work together. The Federation proved she was right. Thompson nodded, but her expression remained thoughtful. Building the Federation was the easy part. Keeping it together will be much harder. You sound worried. I am worried, Thompson admitted. Democracy is fragile. It requires constant work, constant vigilance, and constant compromise. There will always be species that want to return to the old ways, where power was based on strength rather than service. She looked around the plaza, watching representatives from dozens of different species talking and working together. But Elena taught us something important. Change is possible, even when it seems impossible. The galaxy thought the old council would last forever, but Elena's courage helped tear it down in a single day. Thompson smiled for the first time in weeks. If one human diplomat could change the course of galactic history, imagine what we can accomplish when we work together. As night fell on Nexus Prime, the eternal flame continued to burn in Elena's honor. Ships from hundreds of worlds came and went from the station's docking bays, carrying representatives who were building a new kind of galactic civilization. The Federation faced many challenges. Some species still resented human influence. Others wanted to return to the predictable stability of the old council. Pirates and raiders continued to attack shipping, taking advantage of the transition period. But for the first time in galactic history, these problems were being addressed by a government that represented all species equally. Decisions were made, based on evidence and merit rather than tradition and fear. In her quarters aboard the Elena's Justice, Admiral Thompson wrote her daily report to Earth. She described the day's progress, the challenges ahead, and her hopes for the future. The Federation is still young and fragile, she wrote, but it's built on Elena's principle that species should be judged by their actions. Every day I see evidence that this principle works. Former enemies are becoming allies. Ancient prejudices are being abandoned. Young civilizations are contributing ideas that older species never considered. Thompson paused in her writing, looking out her window at the eternal flame burning in the Memorial Plaza. Elena told the council that fire always returns. She was right, but not in the way they expected. The fire of her courage has spread throughout the galaxy, lighting the way toward a better future. The Admiral finished her report and prepared for sleep. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new crises to solve, and new opportunities to prove that the Federation could work. But tonight, Elena Vasquez's flame burned bright at the heart of galactic civilization, a permanent reminder that one person's courage could change the course of history. The galaxy Elena had dreamed of was finally becoming real.